Go back and watch it. You can share it, comment, like, give us feedback, all the above. We love it. We love working with you. So it helps us, with our engagement. So good one today. Feeling exhausted, no matter how much you sleep, or what if your fatigue isn't just about tiredness, but warning signs?
Yeah. Talking about stress,
burnout. Yeah. So, and a lot of this we're going to discuss today: fatigue, brain fog. We're specifically going to touch on what is termed adrenal fatigue. We'll go into that a little bit.
What a rabbit hole, though, doing research on this.
Yeah, for sure. But again, these are not just signs of being tired. These are warning signs. This is our body screaming for balance, for help. Something is going on, and you can't really ignore this, or you shouldn't ignore this, because these will just lead to deeper health issues.
Yeah, sure they will. Unchecked.
Harder to come back from. So we're going to talk about what is adrenal fatigue. I know some of you have heard about it. I have had many questions on this. So that's one reason I really wanted to address this. And so we'll talk about adrenal fatigue, the adrenal glands, what their role is in the body, how our adrenals respond to stress, because a lot of this all has to do with stress, signs and symptoms that you may be experiencing what they call adrenal fatigue, and then certain things, lifestyle factors, basically that we can do to help.
The dreaded lifestyle factors.
Reverse these symptoms. Yes, because it's not as easy as just taking a pill, right? We have to work.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So
it's always the way out, though. It's like lifestyle changes, lifestyle alterations, lifestyle modifications. And it's like, I know it's like exhausting to hear it over and over again.
It's the common denominator of almost everything.
Yeah.
So we have to address it, and we have to,
especially
as humans, we have to put the work in ourselves.
Yeah. And as we talk through this today, we'll hear about what exacerbates this syndrome, or not even a syndrome, but this what did you call it? Adrenal fatigue. See, it's not even a medical term, so I struggle with it because it's not in my vocabulary. But anyway, adrenal fatigue, especially because it can be exacerbated by like obesity. So you're talking like 75% of the population in America anyway is overweight or obese. So
and diabetes, dysregulated
insulin resistance. Dysregulated blood sugar, low thyroid.
Sure. Well,
inflammation.
Right. Yeah.
Inflammation.
We'll get to all this.
Sure. But that just goes to show you how it can get worse. And when we talk about lifestyle changes, there's so much in there. So.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to read you what they define as adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue is a term used to describe a collection of nonspecific symptoms such as fatigue, body aches, nervousness, sleep disturbances, major one, and digestive issues that some people believe are caused by chronic stress, leading to dysfunction of the adrenal glands. The theory suggests that prolonged stress overworks the adrenal glands, which produce hormones like cortisol, our stress hormone, leading to their supposed fatigue and inability to properly function.
So that's the metabolism. So that's the breakdown of cortisol. So as cortisol is released from the adrenal gland, what's it doing? What's it doing?
What's the goal?
What's it doing? Because it can metabolize the cortisol. And so a lot of that dysregulation is in how cortisol is metabolized.
Right. And
how much of it's there is free cortisol. It's another reason why you can't really get blood work done on this as well either.
Right.
Because a lot of cortisol, like total cortisol is what you would measure in blood work. First of all, it's a snapshot one point in time, and it's mostly bound to protein. So similar to the sex hormones where we talked about binding globulins, but like it's bound to mostly protein. So you don't get a free good measurement. You have to do either saliva or urine.
Right. And the saliva one, I know it tests 4 times during your day. So again, our cortisol level changes. So you can't just have a snapshot one time. You need to see what's trending.
But blood work's just not going to do it for you anyway.
Right. Not at all.
Okay.
Yep. So again, it's not recognized as an official medical diagnosis by major health organizations, but chronic stress can dysregulate the HPA axis. We're not going to go too into detail about the scientific background of it. We'll just feed you what you need to know. So this leads to symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, hormonal imbalances. So again, we always talk about like finding the root cause. So I just said a few things here, like hormonal imbalances, right?
Sure.
Well, is it because of adrenal fatigue or chronic stress, right? So we need to go back and find the root causes of what is going on with our body, not just Band-Aid approach, not just.
But why is that important? Because it's also the start of chronic disease.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, stress is the start of all chronic disease.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so real quick, we're going to just, because I've been saying the adrenals, adrenal glands. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to let Dr. Ryan just quickly say, discuss the adrenal glands' role in the body.
Yeah, so
in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell. I mean, there's two little glands. They each one of them sit on top of your kidney, and they're really there for your fight or flight response. Primarily, the first reaction is going to be norepinephrine and epinephrine, which is just your adrenaline. So you go boom, real quick rush.
So that's short-term stress.
Short-term stress, fight or flight, and then the longer-term release of cortisol to help you sustain, to help you manage that stress response. And then, of course, there should be a corrective action after that. So there is, of course, good stress in our life. We talk about it all the time. We talk about hormetic stresses and the way that physical exercise helps you. But yes, that stuff is in check. There is a balance. It's homeostasis. That's what the body does best.
And this short-term stress, this is how how we were evolutionary designed, to run from a tiger, right? It's that short-term stress. The things that happen in our body with this are made to happen for a reason. Simple things like it stops our digestion. Well, right? We need that. If we're going to go all of a sudden sprinting away from a tiger, our body should not be focusing on digesting.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, this is a design response. We should be experiencing this short-term acute responses to stress.
Agreed.
Okay. And then did you go into that was short-term. What about long-term?
Cortisol, the release of cortisol. And again, it has a lot to do with the metabolism of cortisol and how the body can use cortisol and the benefits of cortisol. But again, those exacerbating factors that I talked about earlier will actually create this prolonged high cortisol event. But just as bad as high cortisol prolonged, low to none cortisol, low to no, basically low cortisol
is what comes after.
Yeah, and it's also very bad.
Right.
The whole point is this balance, right?
Sure.
It's just
and we're supposed to have different responses. Like example, when we first wake up in the morning, it's a stressor for our bodies, right? We're God force ourselves to get up, get going. But so our cortisol should be elevated.
Sure.
If you're experiencing that fatigue where you just cannot drag yourself out of bed in the morning, you're probably waking up with low cortisol, right? So a lot of times with this adrenal fatigue, the flip-flop happens, right? So you'll have low in the morning, high at night. If you have high cortisol at night, that's your wired but tired, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Your body is so exhausted, but you're lying there, can't settle. That's that high cortisol in the evening when we really want it to be low, so we can get ourselves ready for bed.
Yeah, and not wanting to go too deep into detail, but there is interrelated aspects with the thyroid, the pituitary, and the adrenal glands. They call it the TPA axis. That there's a lot of feedback loops in there as well. So, but trying to keep it high level and talk about things that you can do from lifestyle and supplementation. That's what we're our goal is today.
Right. And it's noted too that most people with this type of adrenal fatigue typically have some kind of thyroid issue going on as well. So just something to think about, like if you are battling with thyroid dysfunction, whether it's hyper or hypo, something else to look into. So that was just all the long-term chronic stress, which with this, it helps sustain energy levels, regulate inflammation, and manage prolonged stress. But when we have this chronic stress, it's not working properly. Okay. So you talked about the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands, they're important, as Dr. Wright said, help regulating hormones that affect metabolism, stress response, blood pressure, and more. But I'm just, here we go. I just said metabolism. Like we all know about metabolism. When we want to lose weight, we need to increase our metabolism. But if we're here battling chronic stress, that's going to affect our metabolism. Therefore, we're going to have trouble losing weight, especially in the abdominal region. So again, finding out the root causes, figuring out what's going on with our body. Each body's unique. It's not a one size fits all. Okay. So that's about what adrenal fatigue is, the adrenal glands role. We talked a little bit about the stress, short-term, acute, long-term, chronic.
Yeah.
What else? Some cortisol. I have lots of notes here.
Oh, you do. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just talk about stress, because all of this really has to do with stress and how stress can affect the brain. Because I want to start to incorporate brain fog into this, because it is also one of the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and it's a major one.
And that would be when the cortisol level drops, right? Brain fog would be when the levels are dropped out. Yes.
Right.
Yes, because so you had a spike or you had a prolonged high, and then it drops to nothing. That's where your brain fog occurs.
Right. And that's also where you feel like so lack of energy, you can't function.
Yeah, massive fatigue.
It's just so many things. Yeah. So if you have high or dysregulated cortisol, Okay, this chronic stress can lead to these cortisol imbalances, which affect brain function, memory, focus. You might think, gosh, I can't remember anything anymore, but it's just you're totally wiped out. It's maybe not that you've got something going on, more involved than that, but it's just the fact that this high cortisol, this high stress is there, leading to that plummet of the cortisol. Blood sugar swings. So if you're diabetic especially, and then you have this chronic stress and you're trying to balance your blood sugar levels, but then with the stress, you're having all these fluctuations. And I also want you to think about too, while we're just talking about diabetes or let's just say blood sugar response. But say you go and you haven't eaten anything all day, you wake up in the morning, you just go, you're going to have a sugary donut. And that blood sugar response that spike is so high. It's a stress response. It's a big stressor for your body. So then you get the cortisol that's, being affected as well. So it's not just so much as like, what's the big deal? My blood sugar is going to spike a little bit. It does so much more to your body than just watching your blood sugar spike. If you want to think about it, numbers, so much more.
And if you want to think about it for anybody out there that knows somebody that's taking steroids, like just corticosteroids, like whether it's cortisone or methylprednisolone or whatever, like they know that their blood sugar fluctuates wildly. Mm-hmm. There's all these different things that get out of whack.
Right.
And so just think about the way that the metabolism of cortisol can go to cortisone. I mean, there's these things, it's very apparent of the things, the metabolic dysregulation that can occur with adrenal fatigue, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And, unstable blood sugar is going to affect your brain. It's going to affect your mental.
Oh, definitely.
Big time.
Definitely.
And then also, chronic stress affects we talked about sleep, poor sleep quality. Think about what your brain's doing when it's got lack of sleep. I mean, even when I'm shorted a few hours, for some specific reason, probably something to do with the kids. I don't know, but it's a big deal. You notice it. So think about if that's going on all the time. I mean, of course your brain's not going to function properly. Of course you're going to be sitting here in a fog every day, trying to remember things, trying to think, trying to focus. Nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah, so what do we do about it? Are we there yet or not?
We're getting there.
Oh.
Well, okay. We're getting there right now. But nutrient deficiencies, stress affects our nutrient deficiencies. Okay, it's gonna increase these deficiencies that we have. Specifically, stress depletes B vitamins.
Right.
Magnesium.
Yep, magnesium for sure.
Omega-3s, all of which are extremely important for brain function. So what did I just say? Okay, vitamin B complex are in our multivitamins. Our magnesium, omegas and factor 4. These are necessary. Okay, it's not just necessary. They're necessary for so many reasons, but eliminating those nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, and gut health. Okay, so we know our factor 4s are amazing anti-inflammatory. Also, just speaking of gut health, we have our probiotic gut support, but stress really affects the gut. So typically those with adrenal fatigue or stress issues, we have something going on with the gut, whether it's diarrhea, it's constipation. I mean, our gut is affected by it, which also gut-brain connection contributes to the brain fog. So many little things. So I just want to run through real quick some signs and symptoms before we get to what you could do. And then if you guys do have questions, make sure you're typing them in, questions specific to what we're talking about, because we will address them at the end. So if you're thinking, gosh, I wonder if I have adrenal fatigue, or I wonder what's going on. Okay, persistent fatigue. You feel exhausted even if you've slept all night, and you're maybe use a sleep tracker and you're like, oh wow, I slept 8 hours. What's going on? I am exhausted. Afternoon crashes, at that 2-3 o'clock where you're thinking ooh, I need to go get another cup of coffee. Yeah, don't do that, but that's definitely a sign. Relying on caffeine or sugar to stimulate you, to get you through the day. Brain fog and mood changes, which we just talked about, the difficulty concentrating, maybe even feeling overwhelmed, anxious, irritable, all part of it. Lack of motivation. Sleep disturbances, just talked about that. It's not just trouble falling asleep, it's trouble staying asleep. They say this is second, you get a second wind at night. I feel like I hear this all the time where someone's like, oh, I'm so tired between 2 and 5. And then all of a sudden I get my second wind. So I stay up because I'm like, I can get so much work done. Well, because this is a very vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is.
Very vicious cycle. Cravings and blood sugar imbalances, which we talked about, increased belly fat due to an increase in due to cortisol imbalances. Hormonal and immune issues, you tend to get sick more often, which is, and then hormonal ones, thyroid dysfunctions or metabolism. Again, here's the slow metabolism. And it could be possible you have some unexplained like physical disturbances. I mean, it could be like dizziness. We talked about digestive issues, body aches, stuff like that. So here's the big one, because I want to talk a lot about this, is things that we can do to reverse these symptoms of so-called adrenal fatigue, or if we just want to talk about fatigue, stress, brain fog, they're all related. Yeah. Hey.
Covered a lot. Awesome.
Okay. So obviously prioritizing sleep. That's a very, very big one. And I know that this is hard to do because if I just told you, if you're having these cortisol imbalances and you're tired but wired at night, how are you supposed to prioritize sleep? So we need to break habits. We need to, you just need to start somewhere, and it's not going to be overnight. Again, this is not a quick fix. These are lifestyle changes that you're really going to have to work for. We do have our CBN sleep gummies. Those can help you let your body relax and get to sleep and stay asleep. CBN is the sleep molecule. So working on that, because again, I could just tell you, great, go ahead tonight, starting here, get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That's step one. Well, you're thinking like it's impossible because by the time I fall asleep, I really only have 5 hours before my alarm is going off. So consistent routines. So this is all getting into the routines of things. We've done a training on sleep before where we talked about like eliminating the blue light, keeping your room cold and dark, earplugs, eye masks, all the jazz that can help with that. So set yourself up for good sleep. And again, this is not going to happen overnight, but you need to start with this. Okay. Reducing stress. So again, easier said than done.
Yeah, way easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean,
I almost cringe when people just say it. It's like, oh, that's really what you should do.
Work on stress.
Super easy.
Which is almost stresses you out just hearing it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I know.
But there's things that you need to, again, force yourself to do. Deep breathing, meditation, yoga. If you're like, I can't meditate, I don't have time for yoga, that's not my thing. Deep breathing.
Yeah,
right?
Prioritize yourself. Put yourself first in so many ways, right? Like start doing those things you want to do.
Right. Simple. We talk about box breathing. I talk about box breathing to help you fall asleep at night, but it also can help you decrease stress. Box breathing, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Calm your nervous system. So say you're at work and your boss just comes in screaming at you and you feel the stress going through, you feel your blood pressure rising. Take a step back, do box breathing or whatever breathing technique works for you. There's lots of them too that you can Google online. I'm not going to go into all the details. There's many. But again, it's finding what works for you, finding what calms your body down. Go on a walk outside. Leave your workplace.
Sure.
Your kids are driving you crazy. Oh my gosh, I know how that feels. Go outside. Just take a walk around the block. Get some fresh air. Breathe. Let your body calm down. So we need to work on these things because if we just keep ourselves in that stressed out state, we're not going to be able to calm ourselves down. Daily, make sure you're laughing, connecting with others. If you're not, you got to work on that. You have to find joy, social support, it's there. So if you feel like you're just in a rut, there's ways to get out. There are ways to get out. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Comedy's a good one.
Moving along, comedy. Yeah. Anything to make you laugh. Laughing brings joy. Laughing calms the nervous system. Okay. Food, diet, eat a nourishing blood sugar balanced diet. So don't want to go into so much on nutrition.
No, don't do that.
But I want you to understand that this is a major player in our body's stress response. Things need to be balanced. If you're doing some extreme diets, that's a stress for the body. If you're eliminating something completely, that could be a stress for the body. That's why maybe like keto worked for some people and it really doesn't work for the others, because eliminating all the carbohydrate sources, I'm talking about good, healthy carbohydrate sources like sweet potatoes and squash and stuff like that you can't have on keto. Body needs that, right? Maybe it's perceiving this big stressful environment because it's not getting what it needs. And we use carbohydrates for energy. Also, I've been reading a lot on fasting.
I like that one.
What?
Thanks, Ivan. Prayer is a major stress reliever.
Prayer,
Thank you, man.
definitely, for
Absolutely.
Sure. Fasting. I'm talking intermittent fasting. I'm talking 3-day fast. I'm talking 24-hour fast, whatever fasting you want to put it to. Your body can perceive this as stress, especially a premenopausal female. We have to be careful with fasting because our bodies really see it as a stress. So personally, I'm working on just doing a regular 12-hour fast, making sure my body has time for the digestion and the healing and everything. But I'm actually working on my cortisol levels. I'm working on my stress response. So that's where, my reading up on this topic really comes into play. So just be careful with that, right? If you're sitting here for like, oh my God, I'm starving, but I have 2 more hours until I fasted for 16, you're stressing your body out. and it's gonna fight against you. It's gonna have the opposite reaction. Your cortisol is gonna go up. You're gonna store belly fat. Just the exact reason you're probably fasting in the first place, to reduce.
No kidding.
Right.
I know.
So make sure, fruits, vegetables, lean, healthy meats, omega-3 rich fish, good salmon, supplements where we're definitely going to get into a little more. And then there's exercise. Now, this has always been something that has affected me.
Well, it comes easy to you. Yeah.
Comes easy to me, but I do too much. I'm working on that too. So I used to always have the mentality, like if I was exercising, I needed to exercise until I was gasping, until I was like, I worked my body, completely. That's too much stress. So, I've worked on balancing things for me personally, which is, different kinds of strength training incorporated with Pilates, incorporated yoga, long walks. So, not every day is a high intensity workout. So adjust your exercise level to your energy level. So if you're waking up and you're like having a really tired day, don't push it and do some high intensity exercise. I'm not saying don't exercise,
because do something.
It will make you feel good. It will make you feel better, but you don't have to go hit the upper level. You could stay, in the moderate to lower range, and you're still working your body. And again, you'll feel good. So yeah, adjust your exercise. Hydration. If you're hydrating, make sure you're also using electrolytes to really help hydrate your body, not just drinking the water. And caffeine management is a big one with adrenal fatigue, high cortisol levels. Well, I shouldn't say high cortisol levels, cortisol imbalances. So we always want to reach for more caffeine because we are so tired that we can't get through the day, but that has the adverse effects. So you don't necessarily need to eliminate all caffeine, but scale it back. Maybe if you're doing our coffee, maybe use half a scoop in the water, or drink an herbal tea. Herbal teas are great.
Absolutely.
So just lower it a little bit. And then, and here we are, consider supplement support. Very important. So we already talked about how stress depletes B vitamins. Our multivitamins have the full B vitamin complex. Now, if you are really suffering from, severe adrenal fatigue, you might need higher doses of B, but that would be based on your blood work. Work with your doctor. And you could also always just add another specific B vitamin supplement in until you get things stabilized, and you can just do, our regular dosing. I mentioned ashwagandha. Want to talk about ashwagandha? That's in our super greens.
Yeah, it is. Right. It's a powerful adaptogenic herb, obviously been used for many centuries, but I wanted to read sort of how it works, right? Where it says suppresses a stress-induced increases of dopamine. So that works on the neurotransmitter receptors. Receptors in the corpus stratum of the brain. It also appears to reduce stress-induced increases of plasma corticosterone. So I think, think about the corticosteroids I talked about earlier, blood urea, nitrogen, and blood lactic acid. Just again, there's a lot of this clinical research that referenced in studies. So preliminary clinical research in adults with general anxiety disorder also showed that it reduces it significantly as well. Ashwagandha seems to have a anxiolytic effect, so it eliminates anxiety in laboratory research, possibly by acting on the GABA receptor. So I've talked a lot about GABA receptor being the predominant inhibitory neurotransmitter. That's what would be responsible for, the calming and the sleep-inducing mechanism.
Right.
So ashwagandha is powerful in many ways.
And it's the KSM 66.
Yeah, and it's a standardized extract. Right, exactly. So when it comes to ashwagandha, you want to do standardized. You have to know what you're getting. KSM is just the root. You'll notice that's where the highest concentration of withanolides. So all the beneficial compounds. Yeah, it's not that like our world or our diet like has a deficiency in ashwagandha consumption,
Right.
but overall, like because of our sort of just sad diet, I mean, we have a deficiency of like phytonutrients, you know, and antioxidants and beneficial plant compounds. That's
Right.
the problem, right?
Sure.
When you recommend like drinking that tea, yeah, 100% it's loaded with some of these beneficial compounds.
Right.
Even coffee is loaded with beneficial compounds. So having coffee is a good thing, just not in excess and not chasing the caffeine thing all throughout the day, because you know it'll get in the way of your sleep cycle as well. So all great advice, but ashwagandha is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And for that reason, and it's crazy because when you start going through the clinical research, you'll see all these other areas that it can improve upon. Again, being that adaptogen, right, can help with physiological and physical and psychological stress.
Sure.
So you see all these different areas and different ways and proposed mechanisms of action of how it works. And so, yeah, it's awesome.
It's great.
It's an awesome ingredient.
Yeah, love our ashwagandha.
And that's in our organic
super
super greens.
Yep. And I want to circle back real quick when I was talking about the B vitamins. Also, a deficiency of B vitamins can affect your sleep. So it's like this is all these catch-22s. It's like stress is going to decrease your B vitamins, which is going to help prevent you from sleeping.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, vicious cycle. So we need to make sure we're supplementing with the B vitamins because they are getting depleted. Your ashwagandha. So this is factor 4 is great in many reasons because of course your omega-3s, but also, you know, this is such a strong, potent anti-inflammatory supplement, which is very important because all this stress response causes lots of inflammation in our body. So it's more than just needing the omega-3s. It's also the turmeric, the CoQ10, the
curcumin.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I said turmeric. Did I say turmeric?
Garlic,
curcumin, which is your turmeric, CoQ10, and omegas.
That's right.
And then magnesium, of course, we know magnesium helps us relax. It helps relax the nervous, calm the nervous system. So that's why we do always recommend taking it at night because that's typically when we really want to focus on calming and relaxing. It doesn't have to be taken at night, but you're gearing your body up for sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cofactor. It's involved in over 300 biochemical reactions. So just imagine that, right? If you don't have enough, what's going to happen?
Right.
That's another one. I think that's a non-negotiable.
Right. And one of those functions is, you know, I mean, one of those cofactors is adrenal function.
Yeah, for sure it is.
So we need it for adrenal function.
Yeah.
We discussed the B vitamins. Also, vitamin C plays a big role. Vitamin C, we do have it in our multivitamin. Again, if something is going on, you may need to load it. You may need to stack with a higher dose, but it doesn't mean you need to stay there. So sometimes we need to just stack things, add them in until we get our body where it needs to be, and then you maintain. Yeah, so I think that was, and vitamin D. Vitamin D, of course, plays a role. You need, I mean, again, this is our daily essentials pack, right? You'd either pick the men's or the women's, and that's the 3. So you'll notice a trend with me when somebody's asking me for any recommendation for something. I'm always starting with the daily essentials pack and factor 4.
Yeah.
So crucial.
Start there.
You have to. And we talked about, again, supporting your gut-brain connection. The probiotics play a big role. And if you've got a lot of stress going on, you're kind of wiping out your gut microbiome. You're really disturbing it. So got to make sure you're supporting it.
There's a lot of literature that supports that. And, you know, it's, just to clarify, it's not high-grade chronic stress. It's low-grade chronic stress. Inflammatory, low-grade inflammation, like chronic.
Right. You're always.
That's the problem. It's not a high grade of inflammation where your body's just breaking out and like no, it's chronic low grade.
Right.
Slightly elevated. Yeah.
For sure. And then these moving away from supplements, guys, it's just set boundaries. You know, how like it's okay to say no to something. Like if you feel like things are just piling on and you're always being asked, like you need to stand up for yourself. It's okay to say no, because if you enter this burnout and fatigue, I mean, you're not going to be able to get anything done. So schedule time for yourself, schedule downtime, schedule relaxation. And, you know, the power of your mind is pretty crazy because you could take 2 different people, one that just doesn't really get stressed out about anything and one that's gets hyper stressed, and you give them the same situation and you're just going to have 2 completely different reactions. And that's really how the mind is perceiving that stress response. So sometimes if you feel like something is very stressful, that's also where the breath work can come in. It's not doesn't just calm your body, but it takes a step back. So you'll be like, okay, think about it. You know what? This really isn't that stressful. It's not that big of a deal. We can handle this. We can do this, you know? So, take care of yourself. slow
Awesome.
down. Yeah. Did
So
you
wrap
see,
it up?
Yeah. Did you see any questions coming in?
No. I think we touched on everything that I've commented. I mean, a lot of comments, but
Good.
yeah.
Yeah.
All
Again,
good.
I really wanted to touch on this because fatigue is such a common thing for people. And again, if this is you and you're constantly feeling tired and you're feeling like that afternoon slump where you have to go for that extra cup of coffee or something sugary to stimulate you, take this information seriously and put those lifestyle factors into practice, because what you're experiencing, again, they're red flags, they're warning signs of something more serious to come. So take a step back and take care of yourself.
And listen to your body.
Yeah, listen to your body. And
Awesome.
Yeah. So again, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Always give us comments. Join us every Monday for a new health, wellness, supplement related training. If you guys have any further questions that you did not get to ask today, or maybe we missed it because there was a lot of comments that come in. Sometimes we can miss questions. Email me, lisa@livegood.com.
Love it.
All right.
Awesome, guys. Take care of
Awesome.
yourselves. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye now.